Hi, I'm Jeremy with Avalo, and today I want to talk to you about climate change and different ways that you can actually take action and make a change. So, this is a topic that we spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to make a difference and try to help other people make a difference. And one of the most surprising ways that we see and we found, and this is what we do a lot of thinking around specifically, is gardening. Something that sounds very, very small, but can have a massive, massive impact, especially as more and more of us are doing it and continue to do it. So let's jump into that. How does a garden make a change at a global scale? So there are a couple different ways that, I think it's an incredibly complex system. However, there's four kind of things I want to talk to you about today. So the first is eating more veggies. Gardeners eat more veggies. And that's kind of a little bit interesting, but it's like literally like double the amount of veggies. And this is usually something we all struggle like, hey, I want to eat more vegetables, etc. When you have a garden, you don't even think about it. It's just something you do. So like the University of California, they did a study and looked at home gardeners, community gardens, and actually found that people's intake went from 2 cups a day on average before having a garden, before starting to garden, to 4 cups a day. So it's something that can really, it's not a small change, it's a pretty massive change. And if you look at ways that we can make a change in the impact, eating less meat, more veggies is actually one of the major ways that we can all make small changes to stop using a lot of resources in the wrong ways. So that's one of the first things that I think that a lot of people may not know is that gardens make you eat more veggies, not just because they're tastier and they actually are better for you, but it's just something that you find yourself because you see these vegetables grow, you really want to take advantage of them. So it's something that's really, really awesome. It's a behavioral change without trying. So the second thing, I'll move on to the next piece. How else could that? Sure, okay, I can eat more veggies. I get it. That makes sense. But what about what else? How else can I make a change? One of the things is that a lot of people, I think it's not something that's really well taught, is how we are interconnected from a standpoint of pollinators and the full kind of broad ecosystem when it comes to growing food. So we hear, save the bees, save the butterflies. There's a lot of things around saving pollinators. However, like how does that actually make an impact on your farmers and the food areas that support what gets into your grocery store and what gets onto your table? And increasing pollinators is one of the simplest ways you can actually get less pests and increase crop yields. But how do you get the pollinators? Where the pollinators come from, they don't go that far, but they do travel. And so having places, habitats for them to stop over along their journey. So if they go 100 feet in a day or a mile a day, they need a place to stop. They need a place to kind of refuel. And gardens provide that. So gardens make your farms better. They make the produce around you, they make more of it, as well as they make it less chemicals used to grow it, which is just really, really awesome that those bees that you're saving and that produce awesome honey are also having this direct impact on everything else that grows around you. And gardens are a big part of that. The more gardens we get, the more pollinators that can actually influence and help get more crops out of from our farmers. So it's kind of a really, really fun way that those work together. The other thing is, because the pollinators, it actually ties into a lot of different things. If you have more crop yield and you're using less pesticide, you start to have healthier soil. So we add the planet and the area around us, your community, your state, you'll actually start to get healthier soil. That allows a lot of different regenerative practices, which can have a huge impact. If you look at drawdown.org and a couple places, and the UN has a couple of studies in this, but one of the biggest impacts agriculture has on climate crisis is soil health. It's using chemicals and fertilizers, and if you can create that ecosystem and you really get that working, you use less of that. And so it's kind of a natural way to stop using things that are bad for the environment and start integrating practices that are really, really good for the environment. We'll have a link to the blog. You'll see it here, as well as after the video, and we have more resources, like more places to learn about kind of where you can really find out that exactly how this is impacted. But it's a really, really interesting and awesome setup of how these pollinators can make, one bumblebee, instead of one bumblebee flaps its wings, one bumblebee makes the world better through less pesticides. So it's really, really fun. And we're obviously really, really excited about it. But yeah, so pollinators have a couple of benefits. So first off, you get more crops out of it, have less pests doing it, and it can lead to better regenerative practices. And that's kind of all in one area. But what that leads to, even at a bigger scale, is if you have healthier soil, you can actually trap more carbon. So not only do you get all these other benefits about getting the food, the soil itself can actually hold more carbon. And if you're using those regenerative practices, you actually don't till the land and release the carbon. So it ends up net keeping more of that in the ground, which helps lower the overall temperatures for the planet. And that's the goal we're all working for. How do we trap more carbon? How do we let the planet start to heal and stop putting as much out there as we are? So gardens and farming working hand in hand, a really great way to do that. The last thing I want to talk to you about today is, and this is something we could go on for a long time, but to simplify it, like the last thing I think that really makes a massive, massive impact from the world of gardening to your life is the environment around you. And so this is something that I think is very fun, because in addition to you get the food of the garden, you get the beauty of the garden, you actually get the temperature reduction. So a garden will make the area around you cooler. And of course, the plants are filtering the air and taking the carbon dioxide out. So you get better air, you get cooler temperatures through shade, but also just through the ability of the plants to absorb some of that heat and process it to turn that into food. So it's, there's a couple of studies that show like basically a 10% reduction in temperatures just from having plant life around your property. And of course, if you have big trees, that could be even more, but even just a small garden, something, a balcony size, can have a noticeable impact. So that is something we think is really great. Of course, the reason people stay gardening and the reason that it's something that's just amazing is because it also makes you feel better. There's a lot of studies that also show how the wellness aspects, communing with plants, interacting with plants, is something that makes you, it changes your brain waves. It actually makes you feel more relaxed, more calm, and more focused. So all these benefits for the planet, a couple just for you. And you don't have to have 150 acres. You don't have to have a team of people that are helping you change the planet. It can literally be something you start on your balcony, 2 square feet. That's kind of where we look at it as like a small garden. And that makes a difference. That's a stopover for pollinators that helps everyone out. So if you needed another reason to garden, then this is a great one. And if you were looking for ways to really take direct action with climate change, I hope this gave you a little bit of consideration. Check out the blog, check out what we're doing, and I look forward to talking to you soon. All right, take care.